am really excited today to show you some work that I have been doing on this dresser. I'm rehabbing it, and I am using some products that are brand new to me. They came from one of my advertisers. Her ad is up there, or I'm not sure, over there. I'm not sure how this is set up, but the products are called Caromal Colors. As you can also see, I kind of started painting it last night. And that's because in true DIY fashion, when these products came, I could not resist ripping into them, opening them up, and starting to use them right away without asking for any direction or advice from the company that sent them to me. So I started doing some things with them last night, and then I decided, maybe I should ask Patty if I'm doing this right. And so I sent her an email, and she immediately emailed me back and said, no! I mean, I didn't ruin anything, but there was definitely an easier way to do it than what I was doing it. So that's what I'm going to show you today. And so let's get started. I'm going to sand down the front of each drawer just a little bit where the hardware was, because if you run your hands over it, you can kind of feel where the finish is a little bit bumpy right there. You probably noticed that I did not sand the whole front of these drawers. I just sanded that area right where the hardware was, and that was deliberate because according to Caromal Colors, you do not need to sand, you do not need to prime, and so we are going to put that to the test. And we have had a few technical difficulties. You've probably noticed it's a little bit windy out here and a little breezy, and a little while ago a nice big gust of wind came through and knocked over this ridiculous contraption that I have set up that's holding that video camera up at the right angle so that you can see what I'm doing. So basically what you missed was my explaining all about the paint and how I'm using it, and the first coat of paint on the drawers. So that's kind of a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you about the paint, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to put the second coat of paint onto the drawers, which really isn't all that different from the first coat of paint, so I think it'll make a lot of sense. But I told you earlier that the product that we're using is from Caromal Colors. It's the Country Living, like the magazine, Artisans Collection, and this is the parchment colored base coat. So let me show you what we're using. And as soon as I opened this paint last night, I knew there was something different about it. It is really, really thick, like pudding thick. And so you look at it and you think, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And according to the company, that is the reason that it gives you such incredible coverage. So we are going to put that to the test. Now, when I talked with Patty from Fabulous Finishes, she told me that you do want to thin the paint down a little bit. You can work with it full strength, she said, but you'll end up using a lot more paint than you really need. So what I'm going to do is thin it out with just a little bit of water. I'm going to work right out of the jug that they gave me. It's got a nice wide mouth, and that way I don't waste any paint by pouring it into another container and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to take this whole jar of paint, and I probably poured in a little bit earlier, so total I would say I poured in maybe a quarter of a cup. And I'm mixing it with an old kitchen knife, and I'm not even mixing all the way down to the bottom of the can. And it's still very thick. You can see it doesn't drip and run like you would expect a regular paint to. And it's the paint brushes that we're going to use are probably not what you would expect either. We're going to use, they're called chip brushes. Let me show you real close up. See? They are they're just natural bristle brushes. You don't want the nylon bristle brushes. Start off with one of the drawer fronts that I already did do a first coat on, and so I'm going to do the second coat in a similar way. But I'm going to start with the edges, you know, where like the recessed panels might be. If you were doing this on a what do you call it, on a kitchen cabinet. I mean, I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just kind of getting it on there and glopping it on, so to speak, and then going back and kind of going over it to smooth out the brush strokes. And I mean, there are still brush strokes on here. When we are all done, we painted the whole thing 2 coats, maybe 3 if I need them. I'll take my little hand sander and go back over the surface of this to smooth it out a little bit. One of the things about working with chip brushes is that they do shed, and there's really nothing you can do about that. I mean, you can shake them off and whatever, but they're still going to shed. So when you lose any bristles, you just pick them out of the surface with your fingernail or whatever, and move on. No big deal. I'm going to do all the other drawer fronts, and then we'll start on the actual dresser. Now I'm going to start working on the body of the dresser. You can see I had already started working on this last night. You can look at you can see the side. You can see the side here. I actually started off by rolling the paint on, which I was very quickly told was a no. So instead, I am now going back with the brush. I mean, this is very smooth, so it won't be a problem. This paint is way too thick to try and roll, and you want the thick paint because that's what's getting you the coverage. I use 2 sizes of brushes. I'll use the smaller 1-inch brush for pieces like this and, you know, some of the molding, and then somewhere around here I have a larger 1.5-inch brush or a 2-inch brush, and I'll use that for the surface. I can just go back here and paint for a little while, and then I can talk to you and you don't have to look at my butt, so that's a good thing, right? And today what we're going to do is sand first. I'm going to use my handy dandy little hand sander here. I love this thing. And I'm going to go over all of the drawer fronts and the body of the dresser. The next step is to distress the piece. I have gone over everything with the sander, and it's much smoother than it was before. But now I want to go through and I want to have some of the raw wood show through before I put on the toner. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my hand sander, I've put on a fresh piece of sandpaper, and I'm going to go over the spots where you would normally expect to see wear. Now the last step is to apply the toner all over the entire piece, everywhere that we painted. And the toner will really give it that antique finish. It's going to make it a little darker than what it is now, and it's really going to grab into those distressed areas where it's down to the bare wood, and it's going to make those darker. And the application process is very simple. You can use a brush or a roller or whatever. I'm going to use a chip brush, and you spread it on, and you can use a wet rag to wipe it back if you want just a little bit of antiquing, or you can use a dry rag to wipe it back if you want more antiquing. You can see I'm not doing anything fancy. I am just spreading it on there. I'm going to work just a little bit at a time so that it doesn't dry before I have a chance to wipe it off. I'm start like that, and just to give myself an idea, I'm going to start by wiping it back with a wet rag. And that gives you, I kind of like that. That really gives it, you know, it settles into any of the grooves, and it really grabs into those distressed areas, but it's not very dark. The last step is to put our new hardware on. I don't have anything fancy. These are just some oil rubbed bronze looking poles that I picked up at Target. And I'm going to replace those gross old brown wood ones that were on here before. My dresser is finished. I love how it came out. It is a beautiful color. All the texture in that beautiful parchment colored base coat really grabbed the toner at the end and gave it this beautiful worn antique look. This would be gorgeous for kitchen cabinets. And truly, I am thrilled with these products.